Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Warzone in Depth. In today's episode, I want to talk about the upcoming AMAX and FARA nerfs. Now, normally I would wait until these nerfs are already in place before making an in-depth episode. However, I kind of just am super interested in this topic and I wanted to take in-depth in a slightly different direction and do some theory crafting here with some predictions and some suggested nerfs of my own. For those of you that don't know, Raven Software recently tweeted out that they are planning nerfs for the CR56 AMAX, the FARA 83, and the Bullfrog SMG. All of these are of course very important because those are strong weapons, and they're also planning a nerf to the strafing while firing speeds of a lot of Cold War weapons because, as you've seen on not only my guides but guides other places, the assault rifles on the Cold War weapons when properly kitted can strafe super fast and actually outperform a lot of the submachine guns in the game, which they're not supposed to do. I just wanted to let you know that I'm live streaming on Twitch right now. It's kind of rare that I upload and stream at the same time, but today's a special day, so if you want to come hang out with me on Twitch while we do in-depth stuff and play Warzone tonight, it's the first link down there in the description, and I hope to see some of you there. As of right now, the CR56 AMAX is truly the king of rifles in Warzone. Raven even stated as much in their patch notes, saying that no king reigns forever. Now, I do think that the AMAX is significantly less annoying than the FFAR or some of the other metas that we've had to deal with in the past, such as the DMR and the burst rifles and stuff. The AMAX is strong, no doubt. It's the best, no doubt, but it's very reasonable. You know, it's something that I can deal with. But when you look at it mathematically, statistically speaking, and we're going to be referencing true game data and his lovely little charts once again, the CR56 AMAX in orange here, compared to its three closest popular competitors, outperforms almost every weapon at almost every range. There's only a very weird little range, like 23 to maybe 27, 28 meters, where any other weapon is going to outperform the AMAX. These are the weapons or the rifles that I see most commonly being used in Warzone, but you can throw pretty much any rifle on here except for the AS Val, and the AMAX is going to outperform them. The AS Val, of course, has horrible bullet velocity, so it only works for like 30 meters. And I know that the graph's a little bit messy, but it does pretty much tell you the story that the AMAX is going to win a straight-up gunfight at almost every range. There are very few ranges where other rifles are going to outperform the AMAX, either at truly extreme distances if you're running an accuracy weapon like an Odin, or point blank if you're going to be using something like the AS Val like I mentioned earlier. The current AMAX time to kill, if you land all of your shots on the body, is 476 milliseconds, which is incredibly fast. It's not quite old FFAR fast, but it's faster than everything else. Most of the other assault rifles in Warzone have a time to kill of somewhere between about 530 to 600 milliseconds. Of course, if you go through line by line, you can find outliers on either side, but by and large, most of them are going to be somewhere in that group. If you want to take a look at the damage that the AMAX deals currently, and I think this is where we're going to be getting into some interesting theory crafting, it'll deal a colossal 56 damage for headshots, meaning it only takes 5 shots to kill, and 42 to your body, so that's 6 shots to kill if you're landing body shots as well. The current rate of fire is actually a little bit slow at 630 rounds per minute. It's a slow handling weapon, and it doesn't have the best bullet velocity, especially for Modern Warfare 19 weapons. However, the real problem with the gun is that the recoil and the handling and the bullet velocity isn't that bad to risk a few missed shots to get that fast time to kill, because if you're mounted, if your enemy's not paying attention, or if you're just a talented player and recoil isn't that big of a deal for you, the risk reward is clearly in favor of using the AMAX to get the faster time to kill. Even if you're hitting limbs and stuff like that, it's still going to kill at the same speed, which is very quick. So in my opinion, the way to fix the AMAX, the best way to do it, is to slightly reduce the time to kill. You don't want to just absolutely gut this weapon and make it unusable, because that's no fun and nobody likes that. And it's totally okay in a battle royale game to have a objectively best weapon. It just shouldn't like completely dominate everything. It should just be like usually pretty good. So my first suggested nerf in this theory crafting episode is to reduce the rate of fire from 630 down to 570 rounds per minute. It's a nice even multiple of 60, so the game engine will handle it properly. And if you do that, your new time to kill is going to be 526 milliseconds. It's going to be very slightly slower than that of the Cold War AK-47, but the recoil will probably be a little bit easier. You'll have different attachment choices, and there'll be a real kind of go-between between those two weapons if you want a fast time to kill AR. And I think that's still going to be slower than the FARA or the Krig or anything like that, or fast, I got that backwards. It's still going to kill quicker than the accuracy rifles in the game, but of course your recoil will be worse. Perhaps a better one is to reduce the damage from the body from 42 down to 40. That'll increase your time to kill up to 570 milliseconds, which is getting a little bit of a heftier nerf. That's almost 100 millisecond nerf there, and that's gonna, if they went this route, I have a feeling that that would push the AMAX truly out of favor, that for the trade-off here, people would almost certainly prefer a lower recoil weapon, but it is still an option that's on the table. However, my favorite option, the one that I think is going to appeal to most people, is to massively reduce the limb damage of this weapon. You could just leave the chest, the upper chest multiplier, which is pecs and boobs, up the same, but maybe make the stomach down like that. You could reduce the stomach to 40 damage and then make the limbs something pitiful like 30. So if you want to use a weapon that has a theoretically super fast time to kill and high recoil, that's great, but you got to be good enough to land headshots and land upper body shots, or you're going to be screwing yourself with a slower time to kill. And really, I think this reduced limb damage and maybe lower stomach multiplier would be the way to go with the weapon. My prediction for the Bullfrog nerf is a very simple one. I think they're going to reduce the headshot damage. The Bullfrog performs very well. It's got a fast time to kill. It's got a lot of benefits to it. However, you don't have to add in too many headshots into a fight to get a pretty significant time to kill reduction, which is what is perhaps making it unfair in the eyes of Raven. So if I were going to nerf the Bullfrog, I would scale its headshot damage down pretty significantly so that you're going to need more headshots in order to get a faster time to kill, and leave the base weapon with its, or base body shot performance on the weapon excellent as is, because it's totally okay to have a best SMG. The prediction for the upcoming FARA 83 nerf is a little bit more confusing. I have a feeling that my predictions are going to be wrong here. If it were me and I were in their shoes, I would be looking at a minor recoil increase to make it a little bit harder to use at long range, because it's got a great time to kill and it outperforms the Krig with a similar-ish recoil. So I would focus on making it kick a little bit more, or reduce its overall range so that the bullet fall off happens earlier, and a lot of like mid-range engagements wouldn't necessarily be good for the FARA, whereas it would still probably perform fine in the SMG role up close, or as an accuracy rifle at extreme ranges. It wouldn't change a whole lot. Though something about me tells me this Raven is not of the same opinion. I have a feeling that what Raven wants to do is remove the FARA 83 SMG build, so I have a feeling they're going to ignore all of this and instead just make it a slower handling weapon, which would kind of stink, but that's what we're dealing with. And then finally, at the end of the episode, my prediction for the strafe speed nerfs is a very simple one. I think they're going to try to equalize the strafe speed on all of the assault rifles so that none of them can strafe faster than an SMG. As most of you saw in JGod's video on the QBZ, what's happening is that a lot of the Cold War weapons, when you stack attachments, can actually strafe, and strafe while shooting faster than the submachine guns in the game, and they have really absurd performance attributes or mobility and handling attributes in that regard, when they really shouldn't. An SMG should be the fastest moving shooting thing on the map. So I have a feeling that what they're going to do is sort of equalize everything and bring the assault rifles down a little bit in their movement speed, and probably put them very slightly slower than submachine guns, or tied with submachine guns if they're fully kitted. So if you want to do that, you have to run a very specific setup, and they can't outperform them. They can only get as good as an SMG, but not better. Guys, that is all for this very unusual episode of In Depth. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something. I hope that some of my predictions come true, because then I'll feel smart and good about myself. But I also wanted to hear your opinion on doing episodes like this. Is theory crafting, talking about upcoming nerfs and news, something that should be part of In Depth? Or is In Depth more of a what is kind of series, only breaking down the things that currently exist and less so for predictions? Let me know, and I will adjust content in the future. Drifter out.